Mirai stood at the entrance of Kepler Academy and looked up at the massive crystal towers that reached toward the purple sky. The building was unlike anything on Earth. It sparkled in the light of 3 different suns, and students of various alien species walked through the main doors. Some had scales, others had tentacles, and a few looked like walking plants. She took a deep breath and picked up her bags. The most important bag was a small bio container that hummed softly. The customs officer at the spaceport had barely looked at it when she showed her papers. "Emotional support animal," she had said simply. The blue-skinned officer had stamped her documents and waved her through. Now she carried the container carefully as she walked into her new school. Mirai was the first human exchange student at Kepler Academy. The school was famous across the galaxy for teaching the children of important alien families. Earth's government had worked for years to get her this chance. She was proud but also nervous. Everything was so different here. At the registration desk, a floating robot scanned her student card. Kim Mirai. Species. Human. Planet. Earth, it announced in a mechanical voice. Several alien students nearby turned to look at her. She heard them whispering to each other in languages she did not understand, but their tone sounded curious. "You must be the human," said a voice behind her. Mirai turned around and saw what looked like a person made of clear crystal. Light moved through the being's body in pretty patterns. "I am Veltar from the Prism Collective. I believe we are roommates." Mirai smiled and bowed slightly, a habit from home. "Nice to meet you. Please take care of me." Veltar's crystal body flashed with what might have been amusement. "Your species has interesting customs. Come, I will show you to our room." Their dormitory room was large and had 2 sides. Veltar's side had special lights that made rainbow patterns on the walls. Mirai's side was simpler, with a bed, desk, and storage space. She placed the bio-container on her desk carefully and connected it to the room's power supply. "What is in there?" Veltar asked, her crystal body flickering with curiosity. "A friend from home," Mirai replied. "He helps me feel less lonely." That afternoon, all new students gathered in the main hall for orientation. The room was enormous, with seats designed for many different body types. Mirai sat between Veltar and another student who looked like a giant insect. The insect student introduced himself as Tyvan from the Hive Worlds. Professor Kithmora walked onto the stage. She was tall and thin with purple skin and 4 arms. Her voice carried easily through the hall without any microphone. "Welcome to Kepler Academy, the finest institution of learning in this sector of the galaxy." She began explaining the school's rules and classes. Then she talked about something called the Galactic Classification System. "This system helps us understand different worlds and the species that come from them," she said. "Worlds are ranked from Class 1, which are completely safe garden worlds, to Class 15, which are so dangerous that no known species can survive there." A holographic display showed different planets with their classifications. Mirai watched as beautiful, peaceful worlds appeared with low numbers. Then came worlds that looked more dangerous, with higher numbers. Storms, lava, and terrible creatures filled the screens. "Earth," Professor Kithmora continued, "is classified as a Class 7 death world." Earth appeared on the screen, looking blue and green and peaceful. Some students in the audience laughed quietly. Tyvan leaned over to Mirai. "Only Class 7? My homeworld is Class 11. Earth looks so gentle." Veltar's crystal body dimmed. "I am sorry, Mirai. I did not know your world was considered dangerous. You seem so fragile." Mirai did not reply. She watched the presentation and listened to students whisper about how Earth looked too pretty to be a real death world. Someone behind her said, "Class 7 is barely even dangerous. My pet could probably survive there." After orientation, Mirai walked around the campus. The school had many buildings connected by covered walkways. Gardens filled, with alien plants grew between the buildings. Students sat in groups talking and laughing. Most of them looked at her with curiosity, but some seemed to think she was weak or boring. She found a quiet spot near a fountain and used her communication device to call home. Her mother's face appeared on the small screen, looking tired but happy. "How is school, dear?" her mother asked in Korean. "Different," Mireille replied in the same language. "They think Earth is not very dangerous," her mother laughed. "Did you tell them about our neighborhood cats?" "Not yet," Mireille smiled. "I think I will wait for the right moment." "Is your friend settling in well?" her mother asked, looking toward the biocontainer visible in the background. "He is resting. The trip was long for him too. Remember what your father taught you. Sometimes it is better to let others underestimate you." That evening, Mireille and Veltar ate dinner in the cafeteria. The food was strange but not unpleasant. Alien students continued to stare at her throughout the meal. She heard more whispers about Earth and humans. "Is it true that your planet has large predators?" asked a student with blue fur who sat at their table. "We have some dangerous animals," Mireille said simply. "But Class 7 is not very high," the student continued. "The creatures cannot be that bad." Mireille thought about the tigers, bears, and sharks back home. She thought about snakes, spiders, and the many other creatures that humans had learned to live alongside. She also thought about the small creature sleeping peacefully in the biocontainer in her room. "You are probably right," she said quietly. Later, that night Veltar was studying under her special lights. Mireille sat at her desk reading about her new classes. The biocontainer made a soft sound, like a small animal stretching and getting comfortable. "Your friend sounds content," Veltar observed. "He likes new places," Mireille replied. "He is very adaptable." Outside their window, the 3 moons of Nexus Prime cast strange shadows across the campus. Mireille looked out at her new home and thought about the weeks ahead. She had much to learn about her alien classmates, and they had much to learn about her. In the biocontainer, her friend from Earth settled down for sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, they were both safe and ready for whatever came next. Mireille's first week of classes was full of surprises. The subjects were similar to those on Earth, but the perspectives were completely different. In Galactic History class, she learned about wars between species she had never heard of. In basic physics, she discovered that some aliens could see colors that humans could not even imagine. The hardest class was xenobiology, taught by Professor Kithmora. On the 3rd day, another human student walked into the classroom. He was tall and looked nervous as alien eyes followed his movement. "Class, we have another student from Earth joining us," Professor Kithmora announced. "Please introduce yourself." The young man bowed politely. "My name is Lee Dongyun. I am studying medicine and biology. Please take care of me." Mireille felt relieved to see another human. After class, she approached him in the hallway. "It is good to meet you," she said in Korean. Dongyun's face brightened. "You speak Korean. I was beginning to think I would forget my own language. How long have you been here?" "Just 1 week. How about you?" 3 months, he replied. "I can tell you that it does not get easier. They think we are weak." As if to prove his point, a group of alien students walked past them. One of them, a reptilian creature with sharp teeth, spoke loudly enough for them to hear. "Look, both Earth creatures together. I wonder if they are planning to hide from the next quiz." Dongyun's face turned red, but he said nothing. Mireille watched the aliens walk away and remembered her father's advice about patience. In the following days, the mockery became more obvious. During Galactic History, Professor Zephron was teaching about the expansion of different species across the galaxy. "Humans have barely left their home system," he said, showing a map of human space. While other species were building great empires, humans were still fighting among themselves on a single planet. A student with tentacles raised one of them. "Professor, if Earth is supposed to be a death world, why did it take humans so long to develop space travel? Shouldn't dangerous worlds create stronger species?" Several students laughed. Professor Zephron smiled. "An excellent question. Perhaps the classification system needs review when it comes to minor death worlds." Dongyun stood up, his face angry. "Earth has created many amazing things. We have art, music, literature that spans thousands of years. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. Just because we are new to space does not mean we are weak, the tentacled student replied. But you have not faced real galactic challenges. Wait until you see what creatures from true death worlds can do. Mirai watched Dongyun sit down, frustrated and embarrassed. She wanted to help, but she remembered her father's words about waiting for the right moment. The next week, Professor Kithamora gave the class an assignment that would change everything. For your major project this term, you will present your homeworld's most dangerous predator, she announced. This will help us understand the relationship between planetary classification and evolutionary pressure. The alien students immediately began talking excitedly among themselves. Veltar turned to Mirai with concern in her crystal voice. This will be difficult for you. Earth's creatures cannot be very impressive compared to ours. Over the following days, students began sharing what they planned to present. Tyven showed videos of creatures from his homeworld that could spit acid through metal. They were as large as Earth elephants, but moved like spiders, with hundreds of legs and eyes that glowed in the dark. Veltar presented her world's silicon-eating crystal worms. They can consume an entire spacecraft in hours, she explained proudly. My people learned to make friends with them instead of fighting them. An aquatic student named Nalish shared footage of underwater predators that could create whirlpools with their movements. The creatures were beautiful, but deadly, with teeth like razors and the ability to sense fear from kilometers away. When it was Donghyun's turn to share, he showed videos of earth tigers and great white sharks. The images were impressive to Mirai, who had grown up respecting these animals. But compared to the alien creatures, they looked almost gentle. They are pretty, Tyven said, trying to be polite. But they seem so slow, and they only have 4 legs or fins. How do they catch anything? More students laughed. One of them whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear, Earth predators look like pets compared to real dangerous animals. Dongyun's shoulders slumped. He had tried so hard to make Earth look impressive, but his presentation only made the mockery worse. When Mirai's turn came, she stood calmly and showed similar videos. She presented tigers, lions, bears, and sharks with quiet respect. She spoke about their strength, intelligence, and role in Earth's ecosystem. These animals are beautiful, said Professor Kithmora kindly. But I must agree with other students. For a Class 7 death world, these creatures seem manageable. Perhaps Earth's classification comes from natural disasters rather than biological threats? After class, Mirai found Dongyun sitting alone in the library. He looked defeated. I tried so hard, he said in Korean. I wanted to make them understand that Earth is not weak. But how can I explain a tiger to someone who lives with crystal-eating worms? Maybe we are thinking about this wrong, Mirai replied. Maybe the problem is not that our animals are weak. What do you mean? Maybe the problem is that we are trying to impress them with the wrong things. That evening, a large reptilian student named Raxtorn approached their table during dinner. He was bigger than most students and seemed to enjoy intimidating others. I have been thinking about your presentations, he said to Mirai and Dongyun. Earth's Class 7 rating must be a mistake. Your predators would not survive one day on a real death world. Other students gathered around to listen. Raxtorn continued, I propose a friendly competition. Let us bring our family pets to school, not our dangerous predators, just our pets. I think my pet alone could defeat your strongest predator. The suggestion spread quickly through the cafeteria. Students became excited about the idea of showing their pets from home. Professor Kithamora, who overheard the conversation, thought it would be educational. An excellent idea, she announced. We will hold a demonstration where students can share their companion animals. This will help us understand different definitions of dangerous across cultures. Mirai listened to the excited chatter around her. Students began planning what pets they would bring or call from home. The competition was not official, but everyone treated it like a challenge to Earth's death world status. That night, Mirai sat in her room looking at the biocontainer. Inside, her friend from Earth was sleeping peacefully. Veltar was studying at her desk under her rainbow lights. Will you participate in the pet demonstration? Veltar asked. Maybe, Mireille replied. I will have to ask my friend if he wants to meet everyone. The biocontainer made a soft sound, like a small animal having pleasant dreams. Mireille smiled and touched the container gently. He might surprise them, she said quietly. The news about the pet demonstration spread across Kepler Academy like wildfire. Within 2 days, students were making arrangements to bring their companion animals from home, or calling family members to ship their pets via express transport. The excitement was infectious, and even the professors began talking about the educational value of the event. Mireille watched the preparations with quiet interest. In the cafeteria, students shared photos and videos of their pets on their communication devices. Veltar showed images of her crystal spider, a beautiful creature that looked like living diamond but could cut through metal with its legs. She is very gentle with family, Veltar explained to a group of fascinated students. But she becomes protective when strangers approach our home. She once cut a burglar's weapon in half before my parents could stop her. Tyven displayed footage of his swarm of carnivorous beetles. They were each no bigger than Mireille's thumb, but together they moved like a black wave that could strip meat from bone in seconds. They are wonderful pets, he said proudly. They clean the house and garden, and they sing beautiful songs at night. Another student from the methane world showed her pet, a creature that looked like flowing liquid metal but could take any shape it wanted. The being could become solid or gas at will, making it nearly impossible to contain or harm. As Mireille listened to these descriptions, she realized that what these aliens called pets would be considered extremely dangerous monsters on Earth. Yet to them, these creatures were beloved family members that they trusted around their children. She also noticed something else. Several students kept asking her what pet she would bring, but she gave only vague answers. This seemed to frustrate some of them, particularly Raxtorn, who had started the whole competition. The human is probably embarrassed, she heard him tell a group of his friends. Earth pets are probably even weaker than Earth predators. Word of the demonstration reached the faculty, and soon it became an official academy event. Professor Kithmora announced that they would use the main arena, complete with energy barriers and safety equipment. The demonstration was scheduled for the following week. Mireille spent that week making unusual preparations. She visited the Academy's communication center multiple times, having long encrypted conversations with someone on Earth. Veltar noticed that these calls seemed serious and important. Is everything all right at home? She asked one evening. Everything is fine, Mireille replied. I am just making sure my friend will be comfortable here. Mireille also made several trips to the Academy's equipment center. She requested specialized PI containment gear, environmental controls, and monitoring devices. The staff seemed puzzled by her requests but provided everything she asked for. This is very advanced equipment for a small pet, observed the equipment manager, a green-skinned alien with multiple eyes. Are you sure you need all this? Better to be prepared, Mireille said simply. Meanwhile, other students began receiving their pets. The Academy had to set up special facilities to house the various creatures safely. The crystal spider needed a silicon-rich environment. The carnivorous beetles required a sealed habitat to prevent them from accidentally eating other students' belongings. The methane creature needed a specialized atmospheric chamber. Choi Minho, a quiet Korean engineering student whom Mireille had met in passing, approached her one afternoon. He looked worried. I heard about this pet competition, he said in Korean. Are you really planning to participate? Maybe, Mireille replied. Why? I have been here longer than you. These aliens do not understand the concept of holding back. When they compete seriously. Someone could get hurt. Mireille considered his words. What would you do? I would find an excuse not to participate. There is no shame in being careful. But Mireille had already made her decision. That evening, she moved her biocontainer from her room to one of the specialized holding facilities. The container was larger than most students expected, and it required more environmental controls than seemed necessary for a simple pet. Dr. Hans Sora, the Academy's xenopsychologist, happened to be in the facility when Mireille arrived. She was, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who studied how different species interacted with each other. That is quite an elaborate setup for a companion animal, Dr. Han observed, watching Mirai connect multiple monitoring systems to her biocontainer. He likes to be comfortable, Mirai replied. What species is your pet? A friend from Earth. Dr. Han studied Mirai's calm demeanor with professional interest. Most students were excited or nervous about the upcoming demonstration, but Mirai seemed completely relaxed. This was unusual behavior for someone about to show a pet that might be embarrassed by the competition. The Academy's maintenance staff began reporting unusual energy readings from the holding facility where Mirai's container was stored. The readings were not dangerous, but they were different from anything the other pets produced. Chief Maintenance Officer Krelton investigated, personally. The energy signature is organic but highly controlled, he reported to the administration. Whatever is in that container is very much alive, but it seems to be in some kind of regulated hibernation state. The night before the demonstration, students gathered in groups around campus, making final preparations and predictions. The betting pools that some students had started showed heavily against Earth's representative, whatever it might be. Raxtorn held court in the main lounge, describing his own pet to an audience of admirers. She is a tunnel hunter from the deep. Caverns of my homeworld, he boasted. She is 3 meters long, armored like a tank, and her claws can tear through reinforced steel. But she is gentle as a lamb with family. How do you think she will compare to the Earth creature? Asked one of his listeners. Raxtorn laughed loudly. I almost feel sorry for the human. Her pet will probably hide in terror, but perhaps it will be educational for everyone to see the difference between real DEATHWORLD creatures and whatever Earth produces. Across campus, Mirai sat quietly in her room. She had submitted all the required paperwork for the demonstration, including liability, waivers and medical clearances that had surprised the administration with their thoroughness. She had also arranged for someone special to attend the event. Professor Kim Taewon from Earth's embassy had agreed to come as an observer. He was officially listed as a cultural attaché, but Mirai knew he had other qualifications that might be relevant. Veltar noticed that Mirai seemed different that evening. She was not nervous or excited like the other students. Instead, she appeared to be in a state of calm concentration, like someone preparing for something important. Are you ready for tomorrow? Veltar asked. We are as ready as we can be, Mirai replied. We, my friend and I. We have been together for a long time. We understand each other. Outside their window, the 3 moons of Nexus Prime were rising. Tomorrow would bring the demonstration that everyone had been anticipating. Students would finally see what kind of creature Earth had produced as a pet. In the holding facility, Mirai's biocontainer hummed quietly in the controlled environment. Inside, her friend from Earth was resting peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams such creatures have. Tomorrow he would wake up in a strange new world surrounded by alien beings, who had no idea what they were about to encounter. The gathering storm was ready to break. The day of the demonstration arrived with great excitement throughout Kepler Academy. Students who were not participating gathered in the main arena to watch, and even some professors came to observe this unusual cultural exchange. The arena was huge, designed to hold sporting events for various alien species with energy barriers that could contain almost any kind of creature. Mirai arrived early, wearing what looked like simple jewelry, but which she had described as monitoring equipment on her forms. She carried a small device that connected wirelessly to her biocontainer, which had been moved to a special holding area beneath the arena floor. Professor Kithamora stood at the center of the arena with a microphone. Today we will see companion animals from various worlds, she announced to the crowd. This will help us understand different cultural definitions of pet and family creature. The demonstrations began with smaller, less dangerous pets. Student from the ice world showed her crystalline creature that sang beautiful music and could freeze water into artistic shapes. Another student presented his rock creature that ate metals and helped keep their family's machinery clean. As the presentations continued, the pets became more impressive and dangerous. Veltar's crystal spider performed gracefully, cutting through metal targets with ballet-like movements. The audience applauded as the spider carefully carved the Academy's logo into a steel plate. Tyvan's carnivorous beetles swarmed in perfect formation, creating complex patterns in the air before settling down to consume a large piece of artificial meat in seconds. The crowd watched in fascination as the beetles worked together like a single organism. Then came the more serious demonstrations. A student from the Storm Worlds showed her pet lightning creature, a being of pure electrical energy that could control the arena's lights with its movements. The creature danced through the air, creating beautiful patterns of electricity that made the audience gasp. When Raxtorn's turn came, the arena had to be reinforced with additional energy barriers. His tunnel hunter was brought up from the holding area in a special transport container. The moment the container opened, the atmosphere in the arena changed. The creature that emerged was truly impressive. 3 meters long and covered in natural armor that gleamed like polished metal, it moved with the fluid grace of a predator that had never known fear. Its claws were each as long as Mirai's hand, and its eyes held an intelligence that made several students step back nervously. "This is Cathara," Raxtorn announced proudly. "She has been with my family for 40 years. She is gentle with us, but she was born in the deep caverns where only the strongest survive." Cathara demonstrated her abilities by tearing through a steel target as if it were paper. Her claws left deep grooves in the arena floor despite its reinforced construction. When she roared, the sound echoed through the arena like thunder, and some students covered their ears. "She is magnificent," Professor Kithamora said with genuine admiration. "A true product of a high-level DEATHWORLD environment." The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Several students whispered that no other pet could possibly compare to this impressive display of power and control. Finally, it was Mirai's turn. Professor Kim Taewon from Earth's embassy had arrived and was sitting quietly in the observer section. He wore a simple suit, but his alert posture suggested he was more than just a cultural attaché. "And now," Professor Kithmora announced, "our final demonstration. Kim Mirai will present her companion from Earth." The arena fell quiet with anticipation. Many students leaned forward, curious to see what Earth's Class 7 DEATHWORLD had produced as a family pet. Some whispered bets about whether the creature would be too frightened to perform after seeing the other demonstrations. Mirai's biocontainer was brought up on a specialized platform. It was larger than expected, but still much smaller than the containers used for creatures like Cathara. Mirai connected her monitoring device and checked several readings before nodding to herself. She approached the microphone calmly. "This is my friend from Earth," she said simply. "We have been together for 3 years. He is a good companion and very loyal." Mirai activated the container's opening sequence. A complex system of environmental controls maintained perfect conditions as the container unsealed. The audience watched with intense curiosity as Mirai called softly in Korean, "Iriwa Chinguya." "Come here, friend." What emerged from the container was completely unexpected. The creature was small, perhaps the size of a house cat, with thick fur that was dark on top and lighter underneath. It had a pointed face, small round ears, and a long tail. It moved with casual confidence, showing no fear of the huge arena or the hundreds of alien eyes watching it. The arena fell silent. Then scattered laughter began to ripple through the crowd. "That is it," someone called out. "It looks like a toy," another voice said. The creature, which Mirai called Buddy, sat calmly on her shoulder, surveying the arena with bright, intelligent eyes. To most of the alien students, he looked like a stuffed animal come to life, cute, harmless, and completely out of place among the dangerous predators they had just witnessed. Raxtorn's laughter boomed across the arena. "This tiny furry thing is what Earth considers a dangerous pet? My offspring play with creatures more threatening than this." More students joined in the laughter. Comments flew from the audience. "Are you sure it is not a toy? Does it do any tricks? Can it even hurt anything?" Tyvan clicked his mandibles in what his species considered polite amusement. "It is very cute, Mirai, but perhaps you misunderstood the purpose of this demonstration." Veltar's crystal body flickered with embarrassment for her roommate. "I am sure he is a wonderful companion," she said loyally, though her voice carried doubt. Professor Kithmora looked genuinely confused. She had expected something more impressive from a DEATHWORLD species, even a minor one. "Perhaps you could demonstrate some of your pet's abilities," she suggested gently. Mireille remained completely calm despite the laughter and whispers around her. She gently scratched Buddy behind his ears, and he made a soft, contented sound that seemed absurdly gentle compared to Cathara's thunderous roar. "Buddy is a very special kind of earth creature," Mireille explained patiently. "He has been specially trained for interspecies interaction. He is very good at making friends." This statement brought another wave of laughter from the audience. The idea that this tiny, fluffy creature needed special training for anything seemed ridiculous. "What does he eat?" asked a student from the back of the arena. "Whatever he wants," Mireille replied simply. More laughter followed this answer. Students began making jokes about Earth's standards for dangerous creatures. Some suggested that Earth's DEATHWORLD classification was definitely wrong if this was the best the planet could produce. Professor Kithmora looked increasingly uncomfortable. She had not wanted to embarrass Mireille, but the demonstration was becoming awkward for everyone involved. She began to consider ending the event early. "Perhaps we should move to the interaction phase," she announced. "Students can observe the various creatures together in a controlled environment." But as she spoke, something was happening with Raxtorn's tunnel hunter. Cathara had been calm during her own demonstration, but now she was showing signs of agitation. Her head was raised and she was sniffing the air with obvious interest. Her claws flexed against the arena floor, leaving new scratches in the reinforced material. Professor Kim Taewon leaned forward in his seat, his relaxed posture suddenly alert. He reached for his communication device and sent a quick message to someone. In the arena, Buddy continued to sit peacefully on Mireille's shoulder, apparently unaware that he had become the source of great amusement for hundreds of alien students. His calm demeanor suggested that he was either completely harmless or completely confident. The next few minutes would reveal which one was true. The interaction phase began with careful supervision from the professors and academy safety staff. Students were allowed to bring their pets closer together, while energy barriers maintained safe distances between potentially incompatible species. The atmosphere was relaxed and educational, with everyone eager to observe how different creatures behaved around each other. Beltar's crystal spider performed a delicate dance with the ice world's musical creature, creating beautiful harmonic vibrations that made both animals seem to glow. Tyvan's beetles formed protective formations around their master, while remaining curious about the other students. Everything was proceeding exactly as Professor Kithmora had hoped. Mireille stood calmly with Buddy still perched on her shoulder. Several students approached to get a closer look at the small earth creature, their earlier mockery replaced by gentle curiosity. Buddy seemed completely relaxed, occasionally making soft sounds when students spoke to him. "He is actually quite cute," admitted a student with blue fur. "Can I touch him?" "He does not mind gentle contact," Mireille replied, "but let him smell your hand first." The student carefully extended her hand toward Buddy, who sniffed politely, and then allowed her to stroke his fur. His reaction was so peaceful that several other students gathered around, wanting to interact with what they now saw as a harmless and friendly pet. "His fur is so soft," observed another student, "and he feels very warm. Earth creatures must have efficient metabolisms." Buddy seemed to enjoy the attention, making contented sounds and showing no signs of stress or aggression. To everyone watching, he appeared to be exactly what Mireille had claimed, a gentle companion animal who had been well socialized for interspecies contact. But across the arena, Cathara was becoming increasingly restless. The tunnel hunter had been calm during the individual demonstrations, but now her behavior was changing rapidly. She kept lifting her head to sample the air, and her armored body was tensing in ways that made Raxatorn look concerned. "Cathara, settle," Raxatorn commanded in his native language, but the creature's attention was fixed on something that her owner could not identify. Professor Kithmora noticed the change in the tunnel hunter's behavior. "Perhaps we should separate the larger predators," she suggested to the safety staff. Some species combinations may be causing stress. But before anyone could act, disaster struck with terrifying speed. Cathara's restraint system, designed for normal pet interaction, suddenly failed. The creature's natural bioelectric field, amplified by her growing agitation, interfered with the energy barriers in ways the Academy's engineers had not anticipated. Sparks flew from the control panels as the primary containment system overloaded. The tunnel hunter burst free from her designated area with a roar that shook the entire arena. 3 meters of armored predator, moving with the speed and power that had made her species the apex hunters of a Class 11 DEATHWORLD, charged directly toward the crowd of students. Panic erupted instantly. Students scattered in all directions, some screaming in languages Mirai did not recognize. The arena's emergency systems activated, but they were designed to handle sapient threats, not enraged animals operating on pure instinct. Cathara was not attacking out of malice. Her behavior was driven by territorial instincts triggered by scents and sounds she did not understand in this artificial environment. But her intent did not matter to the students in her path. Professor Kithamora shouted commands at the security systems, but the tunnel hunter's bioelectric field continued to disrupt the technological controls. Energy barriers flickered and failed as the creature's natural electromagnetic output overloaded circuits throughout the arena. Veltar screamed as her crystalline body began developing stress fractures from the panic. Her species was not designed for sudden trauma, and the shock of the situation was causing her physical structure to crack. Yoon Sung-ho, a quiet Korean medical student who had been observing from the sidelines, was knocked down by fleeing students. He tried to crawl away from the chaos, but his injured leg would not support his weight. He looked up to see 3 meters of armored death bearing down on him, claws extended and powerful jaws open. In that moment, time seemed to slow. Every alien eye in the arena saw death approaching an innocent student. Security staff were running toward the scene but would never arrive in time. The emergency systems continued to malfunction. Cathara, driven by instincts millions of years old, was seconds away from striking. Throughout the chaos, Mirai had remained perfectly still, while students screamed and ran, while professors shouted orders, while security systems failed and emergency alarms blared. She stood calmly in the center of the arena with Buddy still sitting peacefully on her shoulder. She watched Cathara charge toward Shung-ho with the same composed expression she had worn throughout the entire demonstration. Her hand moved to touch the monitoring device on her wrist, checking readings that no one else could see. Then, as the tunnel hunter closed the final meters to her target, Mirai spoke a single word in Korean. Block. The word was spoken quietly, almost conversationally, but Buddy heard it clearly despite the chaos around them. In the space between one heartbeat and the next, everything changed. The small, harmless creature that had been sitting peacefully on Mirai's shoulder launched himself through the air with explosive speed. What the alien students had seen as a cute, fluffy pet transformed mid-leap into something completely different. Buddy hit the charging tunnel hunter head-on with an impact that echoed through the arena like a thunderclap. The collision was so violent that both creatures rolled across the arena floor in a tangle of fur, claws, and armor. When they separated, the scene that greeted the stunned audience defied everything they thought they knew about Earth creatures. Cathara, the 3-meter apex predator from a Class 11 DEATHWORLD, was lying on her back with her belly exposed in a posture of complete submission. Her powerful claws were retracted, her armored head was pressed against the ground, and she was making high-pitched sounds that her species used to indicate surrender. Standing over her, barely breathing hard from the encounter, was Buddy. The small Earth creature had not grown larger or revealed hidden weapons. He was still the same size, still covered in the same soft fur. But his posture had changed completely. Where before he had seemed gentle and friendly, now he radiated an authority that made every predator instinct in the arena recognize a superior force. The arena fell into absolute silence. Students stopped running. Professors stopped shouting. Even the emergency alarm seemed quiet as everyone stared at the impossible scene before them. Buddy looked down at the submitted tunnel hunter, sniffed once with apparent satisfaction, and then calmly walked back toward Mirai. His demeanor suggested that he had just completed a routine task, like fetching a ball or sitting on command. Cathara remained motionless on the ground, too terrified to move even though her opponent had walked away. In the observer section, Professor Kim Taewon smiled for the first time that day and put away his communication device. His services would not be needed after all. The revelation was about to begin. The silence in the arena stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Every being present stared at the scene before them, trying to process what they had just witnessed. A small, fluffy creature from a minor DEATHWORLD had just dominated one of the most feared predators in known space. Buddy walked calmly back to Mirai and sat down next to her feet, looking up expectantly. She reached down and scratched behind his ears, and he made the same contented sound he had made earlier. To anyone watching, he appeared to be the same gentle pet they had been laughing at minutes before. But Cathara remained motionless on the arena floor, still in the submissive position where Buddy had left her. Her powerful body trembled slightly, and she made no attempt to rise even though her opponent was no longer paying attention to her. Professor Kithmora was the first to find her voice. What just happened? Before Mirai could answer, Professor Kim Taewon stood up in the observer section. May I approach? He called out. When he received permission, he walked calmly down to the arena floor. Allow me to introduce myself. Properly, he said to the shocked audience. I am Dr. Jang Minseok, Earth Xenobiology Attaché to this sector. I also hold degrees in interspecies relations and DEATHWORLD ecology. He looked around at the stunned faces surrounding him. I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about Earth's classification in the galactic system. A student, near the front, raised a shaking hand. But Class 7 is not very dangerous. We learned that in orientation. Dr. Jang smiled sadly. That is where the confusion lies. The classification system has been misinterpreted for decades, especially regarding the lower-numbered DEATHWORLDs. He gestured toward a wall display that showed the planetary classification chart. Class 1 through 6 are not DEATHWORLDs at all. They are garden worlds, paradise worlds, and safe colony worlds. The DEATHWORLD classification begins at Class 7. The arena remained silent as students tried to understand what this meant. Class 7 does not mean barely dangerous, Dr. Jang continued. It means so dangerous that only species with extraordinary survival capabilities can evolve there. Class 7 worlds are planets where everything, the weather, the geology, the biology, is actively trying to kill you every moment of every day. Veltar's crystal body flickered with confusion. But Earth looked so peaceful we saw the images. Earth is beautiful, Dr. Jang agreed. It is also a planet where ice ages regularly wipe out most life forms, where supervolcanoes can change the entire atmosphere, where storms can level entire continents. It is a world where evolution never stops, where only the most adaptable survive. He walked closer to where Buddy sat peacefully next to Mirai. This creature represents millions of years of evolution on a world that has never been safe. His species is called a honey badger. On Earth, we do not consider him particularly dangerous. But he just defeated Cathara, Raxatorn said weakly, looking at his still motionless pet. Yes, Dr. Jang replied. Because on Earth, survival is not about being the biggest or the strongest. It is about being the most determined, the most adaptable, and the most unwilling to give up. Honey badgers are famous on Earth for their attitude, Mirai spoke for the first time since the incident. On Earth, honey badgers fight lions, elephants, and venomous snakes. They raid beehives for fun. They dig through concrete to escape captivity. They are not afraid of anything. But he is so small, whispered a student. Size does not matter on a Class 7 DEATHWORLD, Dr. Jang explained. What matters is will. What matters is the absolute refusal to be defeated. Earth creatures do not survive by being the strongest. They survive by being the most stubborn. Tyven clicked his mandibles nervously. You mean, all Earth creatures are like this? Mirai smiled for the first time that day. Buddy is actually quite gentle compared to some Earth animals. He is an emotional support animal. His job is to help me feel calm and safe. The implications of this statement rippled through the crowd. If this incredibly powerful creature was considered a comfort animal, what were Earth's actual predators like? Dr. Zhang continued his explanation. Humans evolved alongside creatures like this. We learned to cooperate with them, to understand them, to earn their respect. We did not domesticate Earth animals the way other species domesticate their companions. We formed partnerships with survivors. He gestured toward Buddy, who was now lying down with his head on Mirai's foot. This creature chooses to live with humans. He is not tamed or controlled. He is a friend who decided that humans are worth protecting. Yoon Seung-ho, who had been helped to his feet by medical staff, limped forward. You mean, he protected me because I am human? He protected you because you needed protection. Mirai replied simply. That is what friends do. Across the arena, Kethara finally began to move. She slowly rolled onto her feet, keeping her head low and her movements submissive. She had encountered something that her millions of years of evolution told her was a superior predator, and every instinct demanded that she show respect. Raxitorn approached his pet carefully. Kethara, are you hurt? The tunnel hunter was physically unharmed, but she was clearly traumatized by the encounter. She pressed close to her owner, seeking comfort from the only familiar thing in an arena that now felt dangerous. She will recover, Dr. Young assured him. But she has learned something important today. She has met a creature from a world where survival requires different rules. Professor Kitamura was still trying to process everything she had learned. You are saying that Earth's creatures survive through attitude. Through determination, Dr. Zhang corrected. Through the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Class, 7 death worlds do not produce the largest predators or the most venomous creatures. They produce species that simply will not die. A student from the ice worlds raised her hand tentatively. What about humans? Are you like your animals? Mirai and Dr. Zhang exchanged a look. Humans survived ice ages by making clothes and building fires, Mirai said. We survived floods by building boats. We survived disease by developing medicine. We survived predators by making tools and forming groups. We survived, Dr. Zhang added, by refusing to accept that anything was impossible. The demonstration officially ended shortly after that, but its effects would last much longer. Students began researching Earth with new understanding, looking at human history and biology through the lens of death world survival, rather than primitive development. That evening, Mirai sat in her room with Buddy sleeping peacefully in his bio-container. Feltar was at her desk reading everything she could find about Earth ecology. I am sorry we misunderstood, Feltar said quietly. It is okay, Mirai replied. Most species do not understand death worlds until they meet someone from one. Are all humans like you? So calm when things go wrong? Mirai thought about this question. We learn early that panic does not help. Earth teaches you to stay calm and think clearly, even when everything is dangerous. That night, Mirai made another video call home. Her little sister appeared on the screen, doing homework while their family's rescued wolf slept peacefully under the desk. How was your day at school? Her sister asked. Interesting, Mirai replied. I think they understand us better now. In the background, she could see her father working in the garden while their pet, a former stray dog that had chosen to live with their family, kept watch for threats that would never come in their safe suburban neighborhood. Did you tell them about our neighborhood cats yet? Her sister asked with a grin. Not yet, Mirai smiled back. I think they need time to adjust to Buddy first. As the call ended, Mirai looked out her window at the alien campus that was slowly becoming familiar. Tomorrow would bring new classes, new friends, and new opportunities to bridge the gap between species who had grown up on very different worlds. In his container, Buddy stretched and settled back into comfortable sleep. He had done his job protecting someone who needed help, and now he could rest peacefully. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, but tonight all was well. The demonstration had ended, but the real education was just beginning.